Good afternoon, dear students. Today we are going to study the poem My Mother at 66, written by Kamala Das. This poem is actually one of her famous poems, and it is one of the finest examples of the human bonding, especially that of a mother and daughter. It describes the pain and fear of the poet of losing her mother due to harsh reality of life. Now, before we start, we should know a little bit about the poetess herself. Kamala Das was born in Malabar, Kerala. She is recognized as one of India's foremost poets. Her works are known for their originality, versatility, and the indigenous flavor of the soil. Kamala Das has published many novels and short stories in English and Malayalam under the name Madhavikuti. Okay, so before we start discussing the poem, let us first try to feel it. See, in order to understand a poem, we must first feel it. We must first feel the sense of the poet with which he or she writes it. So I'm just reading it out. I want you to feel. See, there is not a single difficult word in the poem, so it will be an easy understanding for you, provided you grasp the sense of it with which the poem is written. Okay, here is the journey. See, we have to keep, before we start, we have to keep this in mind, that aging is a natural process. And so, if you just think about our own parents who are very near and dear to us, what will happen one day when they will get old? Because we know it for a fact that we cannot escape the harshest truth of life. One day, all of us will have to die. This is true, and we cannot escape it. Now, just imagine your own parents. Just think of them, your own parents, and they becoming old. They are becoming old day by day. They are the sense of being aged is there in them. What will happen? Do you like the very idea of they becoming very old and dying one day? No, undoubtedly not. And this is exactly how the poetess felt when she looked at her mother and realized that she was approaching death. But she couldn't stomach that idea and tried to evade the issue, tried to escape that harsh reality. Could she escape it or not? Let's see. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, dozed, open-mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked. But soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, one pale as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But all I said was, "See you soon, Amma." All I did was smile and smile and smile. Now, there are some significant factors related to it. As we continue reading and analyzing the poem, we will understand it better. So, keeping this in mind, let us continue. I have already told you about the poet, so it's time to go into the poem. Now, through this lyrical idiom, this poem, the poet Kamala Das expresses the feelings and the bond that binds a mother and a daughter. We know it pretty well. The stronger the bond is, the more the fear of finding it broken. And that is exactly happened with the poetess. With love and attachment for her mother comes the fear of losing her due to old age. And at the same time, we find her contrasting youth from old age. contrasting youth with old age. Let us see. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, doors open-mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked. Now, what is said? Driving from my parents' home. That means she must have visited her parents. That's what is said. After visiting her parents, the poet is going to Cochin airport on Friday morning to catch a flight back home. Clear? At that time, she saw her mother beside her. That means what? She was also there sitting by her. Poet's mother is with her during the car journey to see her off at the airport. That is the common factor that you can understand from reading the first few lines. That is the first stanza. The poet looks at her mother. And the next lines do something else to us. It brings us the image of the mother, you see. I saw my mother. Where was the mother? Beside me. How did she look then? She looked dozed. She was dozing. You know, dozing? Like what happens in general, like when you are asked to study at night and the common feeling that you might experience, like you are reading and then so like that. You know, dozing, a kind of sleep where you do not sleep properly, but it is there, not sound sleep. So dozing, beside me, doze, open-mouthed. Her mouth was open. Her face ashen like that of a corpse. See, a case of simile here. The poet has looked at her mother, then she looked at her face, and the face did not make her remember Katrina Kaif or any other actress of the modern day. It made her remember the face of a dead body. The face resembled that of a dead body. And this gave her pain. This gave her pain. And she realized with pain. Why realized? Be careful with the word. That it's realization, it's not knowledge. Realization is always true. What you sense, feel, understand on the basis of your experience, knowledge. And so she realized with pain. What did she realize? That she was as old as she looked. This realization generated some pain, gave her pain. And what was the realization? That she was as old as she looked. It's not that she looked more aged than what she was in reality. It showed that she was as old as she looked. After seeing her mother dozing off with her open mouth, she realizes that her mother is old and aging fast. She realizes that her mother, who is as old and weak as she appears to be, will not live long. And you know, such a thought that your mother will die cannot be digested, cannot be stomached. And that is why, in order to overcome that thought, this made her very upset. And so in order to overcome that thought, what did she do? She went for the opposites. Just the opposites of it. We know it. Light is opposite to darkness, in opposition to darkness. Light means absence of darkness. Darkness can be it can be washed away with the help of light. In the same way, we can take some other ways to solve our issues. Pain and happiness. Source of pain, the opposition to it is source of happiness. Aged things, the feeling that you have because of this can be overcome only by way of looking at things that are young. And she exactly did that. She took shelter, she took retreat in the world of nature. The poet is upset and sad after realizing the thought of her mother not living for long. She wants to remove her sad thought of losing her mother. She wants to distract herself from that painful sight. And so, in order to overcome that, she did what? She put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting and merry children spilling out of their homes. We'll read about them. So what did she do? After realizing that the mother is not going to live long, the poetess said. So to distract herself from that sad thought, she looks outside and finds the total contrast. The images of young, energetic trees and happy children are opposite to old, almost lifeless mother, and the sadness the poet is feeling. Now you have to be very careful with the next few lines. And looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. Be very careful. This observation will make you understand about the poetic techniques also. See, the poet has used, kept Y and T capital. So when do you make things capital? First letters capital? When it's a proper noun. When it's a proper noun. For example, the word Ram, R is capital. Why so? It's a proper noun. The first letter is capital. When an inanimate or things that are not considered as persons are treated as persons, we know it as personification. And here exactly the poet has done this. The poet looks outside and sees the trees running. So we know why it happened. Since she was driving the car, all things around her appeared to be running. And so she looked at young trees sprinting. That is the thing. Now let us contrast the situation. Her mother was dozing, static, lifeless, energyless, resembling a dead body. The face resembling that of a dead body. So in order to overcome that, she did what? She looked out at young trees, old, youthful energy. So young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. See, mother was sleeping, sitting, dozing, all sorts of, you can say, lifelessness are reflected from mother. So in order to overcome that, she looked out at children. Aged person, the opposite to it is children. Clear? So exactly the same thing was done by the poet. She looked out at things that are just in opposition to the thought developed by the mother. She wanted to overcome it, and so she went for that. Okay, so what happened? So the movement of the tree, the sprinting and all, it stands for what? It is used to convey the higher energy level, activeness, agility and vitality of youth, in contrast to old age. On the other side, why did she use children? Because her mother was aged. She looked at children. She sees another image of happy. Merry means happy. Happy children running out of their houses. Why so? Because children represent childhood, the beginning stage of life, in contrast to old age, decay. Childhood is the beginning stage. It stands for growth, whereas old age stands for decay. That is the last stage. Children outside are happy while the poet is sad. I hope you have understood the very first view. But could she really escape what's going to happen? Could she really overcome the thought of her mother being aged, of her mother approaching death, which she realized to be true? Can harsh reality of life be overcome? Or can we play a vital role in changing it? That is the prodding question. Well, I want you to read up to that time and time again. In the next class, in the next video, you will certainly get a complete understanding of the poem. So, stay home, stay happy, and a happy reading. Thank you.